I have 3,600 intelligence for 450% increased damage. I have an Esadora's on with 2,160% increased damage. My crackling energy explodes for nearly 250 million damage.
The prophecy is true.
And that's just the start. Hello, my fellow sorcerers, and welcome to my next and latest and greatest Season 5 build. We all laughed at Esadora's overflowing cameo, me included. But things have changed. Intelligence has changed. The ways to get intelligence have changed. So I wondered what I'm sure a lot of you have probably wondered. How good can it actually get if you get essentially the most int it's possible for you to get? And how then do you actually best use it? So I did exactly that, figured out how to get the most int possible and how to best leverage that in an actual build. And well, this is a Pit 101 boss. Yeah, that is over 1 billion burst damage. Okay, in fairness, I did have a shrine effect on, but also in fairness, we are generating them because we will be using a Havarion, so here is one without that. 10 seconds to burst down a Pit 101 boss, which is, yeah, quite bloody quick. This thing is a single target monster. And seriously, did you notice this little boof there? That's a single crackling energy picked up that did that. Is that not ridiculous? Though if you want to take it over to the Tier 8 Hordes Council, it killed them in less than 3 minutes. Which, to put in perspective, is the fastest time I can find of the T8 Council being killed by a sorcerer not using Lightning Spear splintering energy as part of the build. Which, with the changes it got yesterday, is still certainly uncertain where it's actually going to find its feet. Still insane, obviously, but there's definitely a difference. You have splintering energy in Frozen Orbs now. You have splintering energy in Chain Lightning now. It gets a bit dull. And this is anything but. I set out on a quest not just to finally make Crackling Energy Esadora's good, but to reach the highest damage Sorcerer can. Not highest DPS, highest damage. Single number, big, meaty hit. And to say that you can walk over every Crackling Energy and have it explode for hundreds of millions of damage, yeah, that's the stuff right there. It chunks everything. Uber Lilith and your Torment bosses, absolutely no problem. I really can't express just how good at killing a single enemy this is. And you may think, what? But the explosions are AoE. Yes, but when you're fighting a single enemy, all the crackling energy forms around them in a pile in a ring. It doesn't get spread out the room next to every enemy. So you can just run in a circle around a single boss, detonating these essentially nuclear bomb crackling energies like crazy. And it is wonderful. But it's not just about the crackling energy, picking it up and having it explode. You are running Chain Lightning with this, with Axial Conduit, with Infinite Mana. The reason being is that it's the best crackling energy generating engine. With every crit of Chain Lightning, and yes, we have a 100% crit chance in this build, you have the 30% chance of crackling energy. So when you're churning out endless non-stop CLs with Axial's Infinite Mana, you generate a sea of the stuff, more than you can ever run over. This makes it the perfect pairing, and I am very, very proud of it. But make no mistake, the Chain Lightning is not just here to be a crackling energy machine, it does damage. Because we have, 3,600 intelligence and are doing 450% increased damage on top of the build itself, every bounce of chain lightning is 2 to 5 million. Every explosion of axial conduit is 20 to 50 million. On top of the 250 million average from Crackling energy, you are pouring the damage. It makes it incredible for clearing too, incredible for infernal hordes. The Crackling energy detonates and essentially one-shots everything in the area, but the chain lightning is going around and doing that too. We're also nearly impossible to kill, at least if you play the build right, because Esadora has an extra goddamn 30% damage reduction on it fully upgraded, on top of, the infinite endless healing pouring in. And it's a very different style of Sorcerer. We're not spamming cooldowns like every other build. We don't even have any cooldown reduction, but it doesn't matter. It's a simple, pure, elegant, brilliant expression of, I want the yellow numbers to be as high as they can be, using an item that's oft forgotten in Esadora's and a couple others too, to come together in sweet symphony to produce something special. And if splintering energy chain lightning ever gets nerfed or changed like it did yesterday and it ends up being, well, just not quite the same, well then this build is right there going, allow me to introduce myself. And because we are using a Barbarian here, we do get these constant shrine effects, of which most of them essentially make you a god for 20 seconds out of every 30. And that's a lot of enjoyment there too. Without further ado then, let's get into how this all works, how I have reached 3,600 int, and how you too can turn picking up Crackling energy into a nuclear detonation that one-shots everything. Oh, here we go then. Honestly, I feel a bit nervous, like I'm presenting this project I've been working so hard on, and I just really hope everyone loves it. And okay, the skill tree, 2 points in to Firebolt, both to get to your cause and to make our first enchantment slot for that sweet burning synergy. We want our nuclear Crackling energy explosions to be as nuclear as they can be, and Devouring Blaze and the Burning Paragon board and so on is the way for that, to be fair, as it is for essentially every Sorcerer build. Then, onto your cause, we max out your Chain Lightning, and then get Enhanced and Destructive. We max it out because Chain Lightning's still doing a lot of damage in this build, with the ridiculous amount of int, and therefore just pure damage increase we're working with. You are going to see a lot of insanely high steady DPS from the Chain Lightning, and there's nowhere else better to spend the points anyway. Then, Destructive is our Crackling energy engine. There is quite literally no better way to generate as much Crackling as possible than 100% crit chance, which we have, and Chain Lightning. So this is phenomenal and really lets the whole thing work. If this wasn't here, you probably couldn't play Esadora's with any reliability. Over to defensives then, where we get the usual teleport for all it does, speeding things up, getting out of a sticky situation, and the lovely both movement speed and damage reduction. Get 3 out of 3 glass cannon, it's just free damage more than it ever has been, and then Ice Armor into Enhanced, and then Mystical for the massive damage to staggered bosses. Over to your Conjurations, where we do get 3 out of 3 into Lucky Hit. This is more of your kind of free-flowing floating points. You could put these anywhere you want. I have them just for a little bit more poison on andariels, and for even more Crackling energy from Static Discharge. Then we get Align the Elements, the double defensive of Mana Shield and Protection. Very nice to have always. Conjuration Mastery, because even though we're not churning out a lot of Conjurations, we got Unstable Currents, that's a lot of Lightning Spears, we're pressing these two on cooldown, we have the second enchantment slot being Ice Blades, so yeah, we get a good few stacks, and it's always nice to have the damage. Then for your Lightning Spear, take it to Enhanced and then Invoked, get everybody stunned, and then everybody dead. And then your Ice Blades go to the usual summon for the cooldown reduction, and it really is our only cooldown reduction help in this build, so we definitely do need it, as many blades as we can get out. Over to your Mastery, where we get 3 out of 3 in Icy Veil, because our cooldowns are a little bit lower than most Sorcerer builds. We want our barriers to last to help us, not go splat, and this does the trick. Then Inner Flames into Devouring Blaze for the damage amp, and finally just even more Crackling energy from the Static Discharge. We have enough Lucky Hit that this is quite good, and hey, the more the better. Over to Ultimates, where we get Permafrost into Hoarfrost. We have chance chance to freeze on our gear, so it helps against normal enemies and elites, but then, of course, staggered bosses too, it's a nice increase. Then we want coursing currents, and then 3 out of 3 into electrocution, just for more keep aliveness. Finally, unstable currents, and the attack speed that comes with it, a lovely ultimate in every respect. Then the buffed and phenomenal Verse Mastery to top everything off, and there we have it. Alright then, a little bit of a demo time. So we start blasting our target with the Chain Lightning, Axial, Infinite Mana, andariel setup that I showed you guys a couple days ago now in the pure Chain Lightning build, and look how quickly it produces just all the crackling energy. Then we simply walk over it, and I will let everything run out, no buffs, no combat increases, this is just pure base damage. If we get it to pop by walking over it, 7.5 million damage just base, without everything multiplying it up. That's so absurd. And the thing is, because we do have all this intelligence, we're currently down at 3,450 because there is an item to put it to 3,600 that we will get to. But look, this is 433% damage increase, right? If I go down to, let's say, still 2,000, still too much. I just have so much intelligence. There we go, 1,400. So this is about right normally in other builds. You have about this much intelligence. That's 180. So 280, 380, and then 430. It's about 250% more damage than your regular builds. And why is that important? Well, it's what lets it compete with Chain Lightning spam. Because of Conjuration Mastery, when you have 10 stacks of this, it's 10% damage per conjuration. If you have 30 stacks, that's 300% more damage. It's why Lightning Spear is so good. So when I'm over here going from 180 to, oh, look, 430, that's like having about 30 stacks, a little bit less, about right when I'm up at 3.6k of Conjuration Mastery. So it's the only other method for Sorcerer to kind of scale to that level of extreme. And that's really satisfying, and it's one of the reasons that inspired me to push Esadoras to the limit and make the most powerful crackling energy bombs you've ever seen. So let's actually talk the gear then, and what powers this beautiful light show. Because getting the axial conduit legs explosions on top of the Esadora's ones, I mean, it's just fabulous. Alright. Your legendaries then. Well, we'll start with gems first. You want crit damage in your weapon. You want intelligence, of course, in your armor. This plus 100 intelligence is everything. It needs to be intelligence, not health. And then armor in your jewelry. So, legendaries then, you just have 3. We have ourselves Storm Swell. It's just too much damage, especially with the ice armor, and we need to have it there. The other one then is Starlight on your ring, because again, we need to have it there. Without Starlight, we don't have infinite mana, because Starlight giving us mana every time we heal, coupled with Andariel's life on hit, is how we can infinitely spam Chain Lightning to our heart's content to make the crackling energy to nuclear detonate our Esadoras. Then we have the chest, where we have to use a normal legendary chest because we want the intelligence roll. Something like andariels is great, but there's no intelligence on it, and we need to push our intelligence. So we use a regular chest with mage lords on it for the DR. Of course, this goes up to 27%, not quite as high as andariels, but still good. You can use ever living as well if you prefer. Then we get to our uniques. You want axial conduit? Of course you do, it's how it all works. You can't play this form of Chain Lightning without it, so get that on. We want Esu's heirloom for that critical strike chance. We're up to nearly 27% because of the movement speed on a Havarion, which is lovely. And this does have us here in the realm of 100% crit chance, 92. And then as soon as we get any kind of movement speed, like summoning conjurations or dashing, we sit comfortably at the 100% mark. And the fact that we still have this much attack speed, which will touch 100% with unstable currents, it's a different bucket, but combined it's 100%, with a staff is so nice for spamming out those chains, and then a good portion of crit damage still, even with us stacking int. In any case, yes, Esu's heirloom, you want yourself then Esadora's overflowing cameo. This is where it happens. The actual damage roll on this, the 10,589, is very important. Find one that's got a near max damage roll. Obviously, the percent intelligence roll is also very important, so naturally finding this GA int with a max damage was incredible for me, and one of the reasons I really wanted to push this, but you do want both as high as can be. Then we have our mythic uniques. We want Starless Skies. This is there to really help your chain lightning, but the critical strike chance and the attack speed is phenomenal and helps the build really flow, and the lucky hits just fine too, as it does help with Crackling energy and the poison on andariels. It's just really good. Also, the 50% more damage it stacks up to from firing chain lightning affects your Crackling energy explosion, so yeah. Then we have andariels, mainly for the life on hit, but hey, all stats, so we do get to have int. We don't have to choose between int or not int with the helmet, and that's lovely. Really gutted it hit maximum poison resist on the 12-12, but hey, that's okay. Then this twist, I imagine it is to you, a Haverion Spear of Lycander. Now this got changed / buffed depending on who you ask. It lost the attack speed, but 160% crit strike, vulnerable and overpower, but who cares about overpower, is really good for an implicit, and the random shrine effect is also really quite good, especially in infernal hordes where you can't get shrines. It really helps clean up. But the main thing is movement speed to feed into Esu's heirloom crit chance, but then yes, of course, percent all stats. So that's another 35% int. I am very pleased with the use of the spear here. I was racking my brains how to make a Crackling energy work. Hell, in my Sorcerer talk the other day, I was testing a Crackling energy build and I was using normal weapons and just couldn't quite get it to feel good enough. But 35% int on my weapon with 37% int on my amulet? Yeah, now we're talking. This thing is great, and because of all the attack speed from andariels and Ring of Starless Skies, having the staff isn't really holding us back. We're still pelting out those chain lightnings. Now, obviously, I do like to give you alternatives if you don't have the mythic uniques, and you can use Tal Rashes instead of Ring of Starless Skies, or just another ring with intelligence. However, a Haverion is much less replaceable, though technically, yes, you could use a staff with int on it, ideally a GA int roll, and then you need andariels, or you just can't have infinite mana. So that is that. Then we move on to affixes. Obviously, most of them are set, but the 3 that aren't, simply all you want is a GA int roll on them all, ideally, if you can. Mainly just have intelligence everywhere, but a GA int roll is the ideal. I have spent every minute of the last, 5 days farming this to be perfect, so I can show you guys just how good Esadoras can become, so I'm very happy with the gear that I've ended up with. Beyond that, you want critical strike chance and critical strike damage. That helps you out the most. We want to be 100% crit, so all of these explosions do definitely crit, and then the raw damage to amp it up. On your chest, you need either a greater affix armor roll or a normal armor roll, and you need to hit it while masterworking at 4, 8, or 12, so that you are armor capped. Past that, the general damage increases are fine. When it comes then to the actual affixes on your items, well, the only one that I really need to draw attention to, again, is the percent intelligence on Esadoras. GA is nice, but otherwise you want to have it hit that 15%. A high damage roll and a high int roll is everything here. Everything else is just, as you'd expect, as good as you can get. And that's what comes together to give so much int. We're getting 221 from the gloves, we're getting 200 from the ring, we're getting 130 from the helmet, 170 from the chest, and then we got another 500 from the gems, on top of our base intelligence from our Paragon board that I have perfectly crafted to give as much int as possible, multiplied up by, you know, 70%, which is ludicrous and makes it all pop. Seeing that damage increase is amazing. And yes, I know it's quite the insane gear requirement to get this much int, and I would recommend not playing this until you can get at least 3000 int. But obviously this is a real experimental build, pushing a concept as far as it can go, and more than anything, I'm sure you are interested in seeing Esadoras at maximum, because it's not something you can just casually throw gear on and do, because it needs to be like this. So while we try and make our builds as universal as possible, sometimes that's just not possible. Alright, tempering. For your ring, you want unstable currents cooldown reduction, as we need all the help we can get for UC uptime, and then critical strike damage. Vulnerable is also fine if you end up rolling that instead with your worldly finesse. Then on your gloves, you want chance to freeze or immobilize, and critical strike damage or vulnerable damage. On your chest, you want ranks to warmth, and then chance to freeze or immobilize. Having both immobilize and freeze is the ideal combo. Then you can immobilize for devouring blaze, and freeze for your frozen multipliers, so that's nice, but the pair of them is kind of what you're generally aiming at. When it comes to masterworking, very simply, hit all your ints. You want to hit your all stats, you want to hit your percent int, you want to hit your GA ints, you want to hit your all stats, and then you are good. Past that, attack speed on andariels really helps it to get. Chance to cast chain lightning multiple times on your axial conduit is also really nice to get. And then really you can't go too wrong on your style of skies. As long as all 3 hits aren't lucky hit, you will be happy. So for that bonus bit of int from items, if you really want to push this build, you want to head to your alchemist, craft your incense, and then you can do this. Your Chorus of War for all stats by 40, so 40 more int. Then your Spiral Morning, all stats for 15, 15 more int. And then Sage's Whisper for 25 more int. All of that together is then multiplied up by your Havarion and your Esadora's percent int, and that's what pushes me to just over 3,600. Piloting this thing is fairly simple, but it's not as brainless button mashy as other Sorcerer builds. You want to use Lightning Spear and Ice Blades on cooldown always, that's not up for debate, but when it comes to your ice armor and teleport, you need to think a little bit. Because our cooldowns are straight up, we do want to make sure we always have a barrier. So if I've just pressed Ice Blades, I have a barrier, I kind of want to hold the teleport until the barrier goes away, then teleport to maintain barrier uptime. The same with ice armor, okay, it's gone, now I'm going to throw up the ice armor. That's kind of the level you need to be at. Then, unstable currents, just use it on cooldown, essentially, just to really amp up your crackling energy output more than anything, though the extra chain lightnings and lightning spears, obviously lovely to have. And then, other than that, ice armor specifically, you want to use and save for any boss that is staggered. So if you are on a boss and you see that stagger bar building, resist the urge to press your ice armor button until the stagger, and then, okay, he's staggered, I'm pressing it, and then we do a load more damage. In terms of actually killing the thing, you just hold chain lightning with this, and then you just move while you're holding it. So you see, every time I see my staff thrust forward, I'm going to just move a little bit so that I collect the crackling energy as we go. You don't want to just purely move, and you don't want to just stand there casting chain lightning, because if you're purely moving, you're not getting the chain lightning DPS at full potential, and if you're just standing there, you're not picking up crackling energy and getting those ridiculous hundreds of millions of damage explosions. So you just kind of need to stutter step a little bit and find that nice little balance between picking up crackling energy but still consistently firing your chain lightning. And the same against groups of enemies too. Now if the boss is just staggered or everything's injured, you can stop for a little bit and then just purely pick up crackling energy to get all of those explosions and do a load of burst, but you can play that by ear. Paragon board then, and I have been poring over this staring at it to make sure we get every single +5 int we can get, as it very literally powers up the build and then some to do so. It's entirely possible there might be one somewhere I've missed, but I'm pretty sure that we have got the max we can do while still getting everything else we need to get. So stay with me point for point, 8 glyphs, let's do this thing. Heading up and right through Elementalist, straight to the glyph slot, where we then activate Tactician. We do that from the 2 dexes to the right, and then the 2 dexes here. We do grab Erudite, mainly just for the intelligence, as we might as well, as it gets amped up by the Tactician, and literally getting pure intelligence rare nodes increased by the rare node increases is a big factor for maximum intelligence, of course. Then we go left up through Elemental Balance into Enchantment Master. Initially going left and then round to Elementalist for the non-physical, which we need to power up Frigid Fate, and then heading right through these 2 ints straight down to Elemental Balance, and then right through the non-physical to this int, then the glyph, which is Elementalist, and then up and right past the Erudite, which we grab, to the Strength, and then up into the next board, which is going to be your Burning Instinct. Initially heading straight across to this int here, and then up to grab Safeguard, and then down from this int into the next one, all the way to here, where we get Cinders. Then do this lovely little loopy round to the glyph slot, where we get Destruction, and then finish that off with Smoldering Embers and 2 more lots of decks. Then we want to head right and go into the next board, which is your Frigid Fate board. We want to head straight down to this magic node here, then go left through the 2 int, and then grab Charge, finish activating it with Chilling, and then we head right through Weakness, stopping at this dex to go round and get Frigid Fate, continuing on at this Willpower, up for Guarded, and then into the next board, which is going to be your Elemental Summoner. Then we want to head right to this int, up to this one, and then straight across through Conjurer to the glyph where we have Reinforced. We then want to continue on to Erudite, get this 1 extra bit of willpower here, and then finally this one will activate it, and then we continue to the next board, which is going to be your Ceaseless Conduit board, and you want the glyph arranged in the bottom left. Heading straight down to the glyph, like so, it's going to be Enchanter. Get it activated with both Galvanic Catalyst and Electro, and then we're also going to grab every extra bit of int around here to power it up as much as possible, as we need that non-physical damage, again, to max out Frigid Fate. We're ending up at 58, so close, and that's a hefty damage increase. Then we go down past this triple int, all the way to the gate, where we find ourselves with this board, Searing Heat with the glyph in the top left. Head to the glyph, grabbing this extra dex along the way, and here is Flame Feeder, activated with the 2 decks below it. Lastly, then, we want to go above from your Reinforced in your Conjuration Mastery, up and to the left through this 2 int, and then straight to the gate down the middle, and this, as you might expect, is your Static Surge, where we just go simply up to the right, straight to the glyph, where Exploit finds its home and is activated. Incapacitate grab 2, the damage is nice, the 10 extra int is nicer. So there we have it, as much int as possible, 8 glyphs active, all of the nodes that we need, a very finely balanced Paragon board, if I do say so myself, and I am very, very happy with it. And that's all there is to say then. This honestly might be my favourite and perhaps even greatest creation for Sorcerers so far. I adore it. Piling on such colossal amounts of int, combined with axial conduits, free-flowing lightning bolts back and forth, which makes both the perfect damage engine and crackle energy engine for the build, and then all this crackling Esadoras, which is exploding for obscene amounts of damage to even see a sorcerer do. It is just this beautiful synergy that I have had a lot of fun pushing to the max for you guys, and I hope you have enjoyed it. Like, if you did, let me know what you'd like to see next, subscribe and hit the bell for more, consider supporting the future of the channel on Patreon down below, and until we meet again, a goodbye.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.